Сайн байцгаана уу хүн үзэгчдээ. Өнөөдөр ороо манай дефактоны төрөлгийн зочноор Америкийн Роки Маунтайн институт ийм судалгааны институтын үндэслэгч эрдэмтэн физикийн эрдэмтэн Эймори Ловинс оролцож байна. Good evening.
Good evening.
We are very happy to see you in Mongolia. Please tell us what is the main purpose of your visit.
I'll be giving a lecture on new developments in energy that might be useful to Mongolia.
Very much.
I've been meeting various officials, but mostly I want to experience Mongolia for the first time. Mm-hmm. It's a very unusual place. I come a lot to China, and it's only a 2-hour flight, so we had 6 days free, and I said, let's take advantage of this wonderful opportunity.
You have been working now with Chinese government on 13th,
5-year plan.
13th 5-year plan.
Yeah.
And you are part of the energy section of it. Please tell us, what are you doing in that?
China takes very seriously its 5-year plans. I had some influence on the 11th plan in making energy efficiency the top strategic priority for national development. Now in the 13th plan, the paramount leaders of China have called for a revolution, not a word they use lightly, in the consumption and production of energy. So we assembled an 85 analyst team from the top 2 Chinese energy analytic and policy organizations sponsored by National Development and Reform Commission, which writes the plan, and the leading national laboratory working with China in America and our own institute to figure out what is the most efficiency and renewables China could practically and profitably deploy by 2050. Our customers for this work are the people writing the energy content of the 13th 5-year plan, and we just presented the results to them on Monday. So this is very fresh news.
See, in 2009, Time magazine classified you as one of 10 most intelligent persons in the world, and you have been very popular up to now with your concept of making more efficiency current the sources of energy we have around the world, and you have been very widely accepted all around by policymakers in different countries. You have been several prizes on that. Please tell us in a nutshell, what is the concept that makes that much efficient, that energy?
Most of the energy we use is wasted, and by wringing more work out of our energy, we can get the same or better services with less energy, less money, better technology,
logical,
more brains.
Very logical, but how?
Well, it's different in each use and in each sector, and by working in equal depth in all the sectors that use energy, transport, buildings, industry, and electricity, we found that about 3/4 of the electricity now used, even in an efficient country, can be saved cheaper than producing it. And some, well, for example, since we live in a climate similar to that of Mongolia, my wife and I live in a house whose energy design I did 32 years ago. It's at 2,200 meters elevation in the Rocky Mountains near Aspen, Colorado.
Aspen, that's a nice place. Yeah, I was there.
So the temperature there before the climate started warming used to go to minus 44 sometimes, and every year to minus 40. And yet in the middle of our house, we're now ripening our 58th banana crop with no heating system.
Wow.
Because the house is so well insulated that it doesn't need a heating system, and it's cheaper to build it that way because you save the construction cost of the heating system.
Yes. What made that house that efficient?
Well, there's about 10 centimeters of foam in the middle of the walls, which are stone and concrete walls.
Okay.
There's about this much foam in the roof.
Okay.
Even the doors, German vacuum insulated doors, insulate like a half meter of foam. And the windows insulate like 16 sheets of glass, but they look like 2 sheets of glass and cost less than 3, because inside there are special invisibly thin coatings that let light come in but reflect heat so it cannot get out. And then the window is filled with krypton or xenon gas, which insulates much better than air.
All is by your design?
Yeah. And then we use very efficient lights and appliances. It's not just a house, it's also this indoor farm year-round, over 100 kinds of higher plants.
Have you tried in the case of farms?
Yeah, so we grow a lot of our food inside all year.
Okay.
And then also there's 120 square meters of research center where we founded our institute before it got too big and had to move out to other buildings. Now it's 150 people. But the house part is about 140 square meters, and the total building 372. When we first moved in, our total household electric bill was $5 a month, so about 10,000 tugrik a month. And that's before we adopted solar power, but now we are a net exporter of electricity. Our meter runs backwards more than forwards.
Wow.
And
so just for comparison, at the time before you made this house, average, say, bill for the similar house next to you, neighbor, how would be a month about, on the average American family?
The average house built to the legal standard in our area would use 100 times more space and water heating energy than we used, and it would use about 10 times more electricity. Because we saved hot water and electricity, not just space heat, we did pay a little extra for the house.
You made the house smaller?
No.
Still good size house.
Big house. But the extra investment was repaid by energy savings in the first 10 months with 1983 technology.
I see.
Today's technology is much better, so we have changed, we've retrofitted the house to install it and measure how much better it is. The trouble is that the measuring equipment is using more electricity than the lights and appliances we're measuring.
So you want to replicate this in other your innovations throughout the country, technology?
Yeah, well, in fact, our house helped inspire the European passive house movement, and now there are over 30,000 such houses, which, like ours, have roughly normal construction cost and require no heat, even in cold countries like Sweden and Denmark. And in Holland, there's a group of developers who have figured out how to fix up the old masonry apartment buildings so that they will require no heat and will capture as much solar electricity as they use, the so-called net zero energy buildings, because they don't need any outside energy. And that would be paid for entirely from the energy savings without subsidy.
So you are addressing entire chain of energy, from supplying, which kind of producing, distributing, consuming. In this whole chain, you are introducing related better technology, right?
Yes, and in all applications. For example, one of my more interesting jobs was leading the redesign of the world's largest platinum mine, a kilometer under South Africa.
Okay.
And there we found with the mining engineers how to save 43% of the energy and get the money back in 2 or 3 years. We do this very widely. We've done it.
Is it cold there? When it's deep, it's cold, or it's hot?
Very hot.
Hot, I see.
Hot and humid.
Yes.
But this would apply the same techniques to your gold mine, your copper mine, and we even did the conceptual design of a mine that runs on gravity and requires no outside energy. But we've also helped mines around the world to use efficiency and renewable energy cheaper than they could bring in grid power from the outside. We've also redesigned, well, about $40 billion worth of industries and many kinds of land and sea vehicles, big buildings. We're perhaps best known for the retrofit of the Empire State Building in Manhattan. But this shows you how fast the design and technology improve. In 2010, we saved 38% of the energy in the Empire State Building with a 3-year payback. That was considered quite good. 3 years later, we saved 70% retrofitting a difficult half-century-old big office building in Denver, Colorado.
Which building, by the way?
It's the Byron Rogers Federal Complex.
I see.
Yeah. And that made this old building more efficient than the best new office in the United States.
How?
Well, because the 70% saving on the old building was better than the new building.
I see.
And that best new building now uses twice as much energy as our own new office, which is under construction right now in Colorado and has no heating or cooling equipment. Because it doesn't need them, we designed them out.
See, I used to study and live in Colorado, Denver, and comparing with Mongolia, it's a lot of similarity. Even the altitude is close. And as you see, this country, we are coal-based power, and we even not enough producing, and we importing very expensively from Russia and China. And now, how do you see where to start? How you would do if you are in this country?
Well, it's a little early on my third day in Mongolia, but I have been reading about it and having very good tutors. So let me speculate a little. First of all, I think the buildings should all be super insulated. And by using the best European methods, you can add insulation outside the buildings, like putting a tea cozy, a insulating like piece of wool or woven material around a teapot to keep the tea hot.
Yes.
You can put insulation around all these office and apartment buildings.
I see.
And also use super windows like we use. Have plenty of fresh air, but recover heat from the outgoing stale air into the incoming fresh air, as we do in our house. So
how do you make that circulation?
It's a box called an air-to-air heat exchanger, which has little fans. The air streams do not mix. They're separated by thin sheets of metal or plastic with a lot of area. So the heat goes from the warm air into the cold air. And there are, of course, many opportunities to improve the lighting, the appliances, the office equipment. But basically, your older infrastructure is like what I'm familiar with in Russia.
Similar.
Yeah, of course, built by the same design method and same people. And it has little or no insulation, so the nation's treasure flies out the window. This is not a good way to develop.
A lot of money just goes out the window.
So then you don't have an economy, you have a machine for eating resources. So efficiency, especially in heat. Now, the district heating plants also of the Russian type are,
it's exactly the Russian type.
They're less flexible and therefore not at all efficient in the summer. So as they retire, probably now you would replace them both with renewable energy and with a more distributed or decentralized approach, which is good because the old district heating pipes will break. They're getting very old.
Yes. So within one large city, you can decentralize all this instead of transferring or transmitting water.
Yeah, you can do it on a building basis.
Building basis.
Yeah.
Or each building may have.
Yes, and it may be using, for example, a fuel cell, which is now commercial in Japan, Germany, America. We're starting to use them in cars. This is a fuel cell combines hydrogen and air on a special kind of plastic, typically, or ceramic, to make electricity, hot, pure water, and nothing else.
Well, that means we can, in the middle of nowhere, no power, nothing, we can have everything.
Yeah. And, we're already familiar with the decentralized approach because you have, 100,000 or so nomadic people using solar-powered sat phones.
Yes.
So I brought a little device which illustrates this principle.
Okay.
This is from Holland. So this is a solar cell that converts 23% of the sunlight to electricity.
Okay.
It's stored inside in batteries which tolerate high temperature. And then in the back are extremely efficient LED lights.
Okay.
So I hesitate to point this at the camera. It is so strong, I would blind the camera.
Yes.
But it will shine like this for 10 hours on a charge, or like this for 150 hours.
Oh.
And you can also charge your phone from this port.
Okay.
So it's a self-contained package called a Waka Waka, which is Swahili for shines brightly.
Okay, Waka, okay.
Yeah. Now, there are about 1.2 billion people in the world not on the grid, just like your nomadic people. And they mostly light with kerosene. They spend $38 billion a year on kerosene. If it were a country, it would be number 8 in carbon emissions.
Okay.
And also, of course, terrible pollution from the lamp. So these people pay a fifth of the world's cost of lighting, but they get 1,000th of the light because the kerosene lamp is so inefficient.
Yes.
Now, when you substitute this, you banish darkness, you can teach your children to read, and it pays back against kerosene in 2 to 6 weeks, typically. So it's like getting forever a month's extra income per year from not having to buy the kerosene. So this sort of distributed electricity can bring many benefits of modern life to people far, far from the grid.
So basically what you are saying is, say Mongolia, we need in a remote, it's a very scarcely populated country.
Yeah.
In our IMAX, we have 21 centers, where few people, then even smaller Somon counties. And there we cannot bring to everybody the power. And now it is it has no sense, looks like.
Well, the interesting thing is that now the solar energy is cheaper than the grid power in many countries. And
in Mongolia in particular, so must be.
I think so. The coal power is subsidized, which means we buy some of our energy through our taxes rather than directly. And that really distorts the whole economy. The purpose is to make energy more affordable for poor people. It's better to make poor people less poor, but to charge what energy really costs so the prices tell the truth. Otherwise, we don't know how much is enough, and we don't buy enough efficiency or enough renewable energy. But let me illustrate for a very big country, also with urban and rural populations, how this can work, and that's China, right next door. So we found in the work for the 13th five-year plan, China could have a 7 times bigger economy in 2050 using only slightly more energy than today. They would get about 7 times more GDP from each unit of energy than today, 12 times more from each unit of fossil fuel because half the supply would be non-fossil. And yet this would cost about $3.5 trillion less than business as usual, not counting pollution, public health benefits, or anything other extra costs.
That's the way China is taking now.
This is what the authors of the energy content in the 13th five-year plan are very excited about. When we told them on Monday and showed them the analysis, they thought it was good work, and they had good suggestions about how to...
You said we. Who had been working with it? I mean, outside of certainly Chinese scientists and planners.
Yeah,
who are from you?
So it's the Energy Research Institute of the National Development and Reform Commission, the Energy Foundation China, which they also sponsor to advise on policy, the China Energy Group of Lawrence Berkeley National Laboratory, and our own Roki Mauntain Institute. And together we've had 85 people working hard for 2 years to write the roadmap for this energy revolution that President Xi Jinping wants. So it's very exciting, and I think this will be very seriously considered in the new plan.
In Mongolian terms, I'm just trying to figure out what you said about the possibility, the technological achievements we reached already. For example, we can make these houses completely independent with everything, power, hot water. How to get these people convinced, how to get these politicians convinced that they have to do with this. What that part probably looks like as difficult as the technology.
Well, I think we go do some so that people can see it.
Correct.
You know, not everyone can come to Colorado and see our house, or go to Europe and see the 30,000 passive buildings. But, you know, in Ulaanbaatar, we can rather easily build such a thing. And a few parts will need to be imported because they're not yet made here.
Okay.
But, for example, the air-to-air heat exchangers, any good sheet metal shop can make this. It's not complicated.
Where, for example, I think I might find, for example, a guest or somebody who is really want to this sample house. What shall they start better with?
Well, stop up the air leaks in the house so you don't have the wind whistling through the house.
Yes.
So caulking, weather stripping. Start with the holes that a cat could go through and then work down to the smaller ones.
No, I mean, this person could start completely brand new.
Oh,
say, just to suit everybody, because we want to create some kind of ger, the nomadic house, kind of size.
Oh, a super efficient ger?
Yeah, somewhere in countryside, very super efficient, and we want to start it from zero. What, say, you and me start? What shall we do?
Well, I'm about to have my first stay in a ger, and after that, perhaps I'll have more ideas. I mean, it is it's really a brilliant design for what it does, and people have used it here for so long. It's highly refined.
Yeah, this design is shaped by our long traditions.
Yeah.
The round circle, we believe, the air circulation is so well.
Yeah.
That people even sleep better. When I go outside, sometimes when I stay in gear, sleeping much better.
Yeah.
Circulation. So please stay there. And after that, if you decide to make the super efficient gear for one, then all Mongolians will follow it. Maybe it's the good way to start.
There are some new insulating materials that are very lightweight and compact, and perhaps could be used along with the traditional felt insulation.
I have seen one, for example, on the top of Vail, Colorado, Rocky Mountains, where you ski. Surprisingly, not only that, gear made out of different material. They all were some for medical service, quick emergency.
Oh, yeah. No, many people in the West admire and enjoy this architecture and adapt it to different materials and styles. And I love living in a round space. I've done this before in a teepee, for example, which is the Native American version. And it's very centering and very efficient. I think probably in the ger, a bigger issue will be the air leaks. So I want to see how the structure is closed up to...
The one you talked about, this coming
all
in
the
and
cracks,
coming out.
So because it's nomadic, we don't use permanent material. So I want to look at how this is done and perhaps might have some ideas. But of course, the electricity can readily come from sun, and those panels are easy to carry. And I think I have a lot of learning to do about the Mongolian conditions, but people here are very tough and resourceful and smart. They must be to live in such a difficult place.
Survived.
And survive and thrive for a long time and build such an impressive culture. So I think they will probably be much smarter than I am at adapting the new methods to their needs.
You know, because this inner way efficiency of our living way and a good harmony traditionally with the nature, our culture, I think, will nutrition the concept that we are talking about. And hopefully maybe a couple of years from now we may see with your inside knowledge what you will gain from staying in there. And since so what's your plan after China?
Well, if the government, as we hope, adopts many of our recommendations in the 13th five-year plan, then of course begins a much longer effort to implement with the leadership of the central government, but also very much the state and local governments. There's a proverb in Chinese, "Ten Gao Huangdi Yun," heaven is high and the emperor is far away.
Okay.
Same in my country.
You speak Chinese?
A little.
No, okay.
And a little Russian, but
okay.
This means we don't much care what the central government does far away.
Yes.
We do our own thing here.
Yeah, and that's what we want our local remote area people think and do in that way.
Yeah, and in such a big country, it's natural that you should have many different kinds of innovation and leadership in different places. The same in China.
Yes.
Many governors of provinces, many mayors, many local councillors want to do new things, do things better. And we're helping our Chinese colleagues figure out how to create the conditions for that innovation to flourish. You see, about 90% of the technologies behind the Industrial Revolution were invented in China.
What is it?
China invented the architecture of my house 6,000 years ago. Passive solar architecture came from North China. You can dig it up as an archaeologist and see it. The fossil fuel industries were invented in China 1,000 to 2,000 years ago. About 2,000 years ago, China was digging up natural gas from as much as 1,400 meters deep and distributing it in bamboo pipes. Confucius wrote that every boy leaving the house would carry on his belt a little bronze object for kindling fire. It's a fire mirror. And just a few years ago, the archaeologists said, "What are these strange bronze things we keep digging up? We don't know what they are." And somebody said, "Gee, maybe that's the fire mirror Confucius talked about." So they cast a new one, the same shape, polished it, and it lit a fire in seconds.
Wow.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. China is full of brilliant innovators, and I suspect Mongolia too.
Emery, your visit and you will encounter many innovative Mongolians, I hope you will, and then it may have another good light for making our future better, more energy, more efficient, okay?
I hope so.
Thank you very much for being my guest. Enjoyed, very delighted. And I think our conversation laying a foundation for many further talks.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Баярлалаа.
Thank you. Хүн төсөлтөд өнөөдөр манай фактны нэвтрүүлгийн зочноор гайхамшигтай эрдэмтэн Дэлхийн эрчим хүчийг өөрчилж байгаа ноён Amory Lovins орцлоо. Баярлалаа.